I'm Josh Middleton and I'm really excited to finally announce Ultimate Heavy Drums from Middletone Audio. So this drum library came about due to pure necessity for me. I found I was spending too much time when I was meant to be writing and demoing, messing around with drum sounds, trying to get them the way I wanted to sound in the mix. And I want my demos to sound like a finished mix, so I feel inspired when I'm writing. The sort of drum sounds that I grew up obsessing over, I couldn't really find anything out there that existed that suited this type of metal. The way that I like my snares to pop and the sustain on them. Where I like the high end placed on my kick drums. And out of the drum libraries I tried, nothing was pre-processed and sounding great out of the box for my mixes. So the only thing for me to do was to create my own. As someone who spent most of their life sat in front of a computer with a guitar on my lap, programming in drums, I've tried various different libraries. I know what I like and what I don't like. Something that's really frustrating for me is finding a library where it sounds great, but there's only 3 toms and we have drummers that play with either 4 or 5 toms. Or sometimes there'll be a library that sounds great as it is, doesn't need any tweaking, but one element like the snare drum is just too dull and I just want to throw an EQ and brighten that up, but it brightens everything else up with it. I really wanted to create something where everything was pre-processed, but there's a ton of different options. So you've got tons of different snare sounds to choose from, tons of different kicks, 3 different sets of toms. So there's a wide scope of sounds. Everything be pre-processed, but still be able to tweak the sounds individually within Kontakt. I just want everything to be sounding good, make a preset, and then we're good to go. It was also a necessity for me as someone that does a lot of mixing work. I really wanted to have my own library of drum samples to utilize in my mixes. I like to blend in a bunch of different sounds and different samples, especially with like snare drums, for example. And when you're doing a whole album, you're having to phase align all these different samples. It gets quite frustrating. So I wanted to create some TCI files that were kind of like a one-stop shop where everything's pre-processed. I've got some one-shot samples blended in at the high velocities, and I can just open these up and have great sounding drums instantly. So regarding the Kontakt instrument, I don't want to have to do any routing through my DAW. I don't want plugins running, but I still want to be able to tweak these sounds if need be within Kontakt. So there's a bunch of different features in here that allows you to treat these pre-processed sounds and still kind of mix them and change them as you see fit. So up first we have a tilt EQ. So this is great, we can add this to any piece of the kit. So for example, if you're a mix engineer that likes really dark cymbals and you want to leave all your high-end space for your vocal, you can do so. Or if you like really bright metallic sounding cymbals, every single piece of the kit has this tilt EQ, so you can essentially just slide the fader to make things brighter or darker. Up next we have a transient designer, and this is on every single piece of the kit as well, so you can add or reduce attack and sustain. One way that I like to use this is actually on cymbals like China cymbals and splash cymbals, kind of increasing the sustain, maybe reducing the attack just a little bit to kind of make those cymbals wash a little bit more. Up next, I'm going to talk about the fact that there are 2 kick drums. Now, when we recorded these samples, we just recorded a single kick each time. It wasn't a double bass drum kit. And when it came to creating the UI, I just wanted a picture of 2 kick drums because I thought it looked really metal. But when I got the first version of this back from Moises, who coded it for me, he had put the options on the left kick. And I said, oh, we don't really need this. But he said, why don't you just leave it? I think you might find it useful. And it is very useful. So some different ways I like to use this. If there's a drum break in a song where you've got like a drum intro to a song, or a section where you've just got a kick drum going and you want to add some sustain, you can treat the left kick differently. You can have more room mic, increase the sustain, maybe a bit of reverb on it. And then maybe when the band kicks in, you switch to the right kick, which has less sustain, less room mic, and is a bit tighter sounding. Another way of using this is quite common in modern metal mixes that have really fast sections of double pedal, is automate these sections down in volume and maybe reduce some of the low end. So what you could do is switch to the left kick for fast double pedal sections, increase the high end a bit, reduce the volume a bit, and this will kind of mimic that kick automation I was talking about. And lastly, another thing you can do to mimic the sound of having two different bass drums is use the pitch control to slightly change the pitch of one of the kicks, and this will give you that kind of left and right kick drum sound. And another great feature is with the kick drum and the snare drum, we have the ability to load in one-shot samples. So if you have your own library of drum samples you like using, you can blend these in. Also, I've included a bunch of these sounds from the library as one-shot samples, so you can blend in different sounds. I think this is going to be something that appeals to a lot of players out there that like this type of heavy music.